What's up, y'all? Had to straighten my screen. It's Dominique, aka That Therapist. For those of you that don't know me, I am the lead clinician and CEO for a group practice known as Yellowbird Counseling. What do we do? Well, so we do a couple things. The first thing that we do is we provide individual, family, couples, marriage, adolescent, kid, teenager, geriatric therapies in the states of Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and New Jersey. That's what we do. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis, okay? And for our Alabama clients, we provide in-person or virtual. Our other states, we provide virtual. So yeah, that's what we do on a day-to-day. So if you're looking for individual therapy, group therapy, and or counseling, individual therapy and or counseling, group therapy and or counseling, family therapy and or counseling, couples therapy and or counseling, you can contact us and I'll give you our contact information in a little bit. Okay, so that's what we do, again, throughout the week, day to day. But what do we do here on social media? Well, we present live topics that the general population can relate to and tie it back to how we can all benefit from having a therapist outside of simply just having mental illness. Because that's the biggest stigma around coming to see one of us, is that something has to be quote unquote wrong with you, you know, or you have to be crazy. I even have people that call for therapy and say some wild things that stigma is around. And I understand where it's coming from. I'm just proud that they are coming. I'm glad that they are reaching out and taking that step. But I heard, I had somebody tell me today, oh, I just need counseling. I'm not crazy in the head. I don't need medicine. Well, taking medicine doesn't make you crazy in the head either. So, but I understand the stigma that has been built around mental health and wellness. So it is my job to help break that stigma. So one of the ways that I do that is by doing these live topics on things that we all can relate to, whether we have a mental illness or not. And also by helping you say it with your chest, starting that conversation, starting the mental health conversation with your friends and family, and normalizing therapy like you normalize going to the dentist, you normalize going to your gynecologist or your urologist or your dermatologist or your the primary care physician for a yearly check. We want therapy to be as normal as it is to go see any of those other providers. So we diligently work on that on a weekly basis. So that's what we're doing here this evening. But if you could do me a huge favor, one huge favor, if you could share this live, all right? If you could share it on your timeline for somebody who may need it, or if you could click the share button on your phone and then tap on more options and text the link or instant message the link to somebody who may really need to hear about the topic that we're talking about tonight. And that can be your contribution to helping us here at Yellowbird break the stigma that surrounds mental health and wellness by normalizing these discussions. So if you could do that, if you could give us a share or two, that would be great and super duper helpful. All right, so let's get to it. We have been starting the new year off talking about different areas that you can implement a healthier you this year in 2023. So we started off with, let me make sure I say them in order. So we started off first with talking about, and this was the end of last year, just the anxieties that could come along with the new year. And then we talked about last week, we talked about, the mental health barriers that maybe you weren't aware of, and the mental health deficit that is happening. So the mental health care and just how you can better care for your mental health this year. So we're going to get deeper into that and talk about one of the things that was a theme across those most recent conversations that we've had in the past few weeks, which is boundaries. Y'all see them all over social media, the word boundaries, and folks talking about they putting up their boundaries and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? And I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of times people are saying it and they don't know what they're saying. And I know that because I have clients that I see that I've had to actually teach, and these are intelligent clients. I've told y'all, all my people are highly intelligent. None of my clients are unintelligent, okay? Regardless of whatever's going on with them, that does not affect their intellect. So even with that, my intelligent clients are struggling with the concept of boundaries, and it's not their fault. A lot of it is society's lack of enforcing boundaries and making us feel like we don't have a voice. And to even take it a step further, in the Black and brown community, definitely boundaries is a super, super abstract and pie in the sky sometimes idea to maintain, to the point where when we try to implement boundaries, people shame us for it. We may get some level of shaming or gaslighting for implement a boundary. So what I'm going to do this evening is I'll break down boundaries, and I'm going to talk to you about how to implement them and the process of how to overcome people that don't want you to put up your boundaries, okay? Because you're probably going to have more people that don't want you to use your boundaries than you have people that want you to implement your boundaries. I always, when a person puts up their boundaries with me, I always am like, yes, good job. Like, I'm not going to push past your boundaries, or I'm not going to shame you for putting up a boundary. I'm going to encourage you to carry it through. If you have a boundary that you need to set with me, please set it. And I was saying that even before I believed in boundaries for myself. Hold on. Let me close. We got a dog we got to coaxed outside. So they decided they weren't going to go out right now. But so, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, if you're saying no, let your no be a no, and let your yes be a yes, and let your maybe be a maybe. But I've said that, I've always said with my mouth, yes, I encourage boundaries. But because I didn't have my own concept of boundaries, and this is even since I've been a therapist, like, I've only started really developing and implementing boundaries in the past, like, 3 to 4 years, really. But before that, I was like, yeah, everybody else should have boundaries, but not me. I need to be so open, and I don't need to have time to, because boundaries to me, the only thing for me, now I could think of it, for other people, but for me personally, boundaries for me only meant, you give people space when they ask for it, because people, ask for space. And so I was like, oh, okay, space. I don't really need space, so I don't really have boundaries. And I still would say I don't need a whole lot of me time or anything like that. I'm not really somebody who has to have like a whole lot of time alone. But that doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. So my concept of boundaries was really, really messed up till about 3 or 4 years ago, thinking only about folks who ask for space. Okay. Well, that's not the only thing. You have different types of boundaries different levels of boundaries. Boundaries can change. Boundaries may not be the same for everybody. But to respect the individual's boundaries is all you have to do, whether it's a boundary that you have for yourself or not. Say that again. All you have to do is respect what someone's boundary is, whether it's a boundary for you or not. Just because it's not a boundary that you would implement doesn't mean it's a wrong boundary for them to implement. All right, so that's a good place for us to get started. What are boundaries? I'm going to take y'all the most rudimentary level, and then we're going to build up from there. But what are boundaries? I want y'all to answer in the comments and tell me, what is your personal concept of boundaries? And before you answer, please, if you could, share this live. Share this live for me, and then we're going to get to it. But tell me in the comments, and let me look. Y'all know I can't see all that well. But let's look and let's talk and let's see what y'all come up with. What are boundaries? Y'all tell me in the comments. Y'all tell me. Yay. Okay. What are boundaries? And if you're not sure, say that. If you're not sure exactly what boundaries are, no problem. You can say that too. If you're not sure. Let's see. It's how you respect yourself and others, and how others treat you. It's how you respect yourself and how others treat you. Yeah, that's a good start. Areas that can be off limits. All right, that's another good one. Any others? Any others for what are boundaries? Okay. And we're starting the most rudimentary. So y'all are doing the first two comments we had really good. Getting really warm. Lines that mark limits. That's a good one. Real good. Real good. Real good. Okay. Keep it going. What else might you call boundary? What else? Well, yeah, we're definitely going to start there. Lines that mark limits. Limits. What separates you from the environment or the people around you? There has to be a defining line where you stop and they start, or where your space stops and someone else's space starts. Okay? Like, for those of you that own a home, if you've ever built a house, they tell you exactly where your land stops. Somebody else's land starts. They make sure to tell you that. So anything you want to do to your space, you can do it within, well, not anything. I mean, of course, there's other boundaries as far as other things, HOA or whatever. But in general, y'all know what I'm saying. Okay, y'all get the point. For land plots, there is a line. They tell you, okay, this is where your land starts. This is where so-and-so's land starts. So you know that whatever you have the freedom to do, you cannot go past that line. Okay? You cannot go past that line. And that helps differentiate one space from the next space. Okay? So that is like a more concrete example, but we also have those dividing lines for us as people. Okay, we have those dividing lines for us as people. And what are those dividing lines designed to do? Tell me, put it in the comments. What are those dividing lines that we have? What are they designed to do for us and for others? What do we have them for? What's the point of even having a boundary? Yeah, I like that. Every day, personal space that you require others to respect. Exactly. Protect. I like that. Protect. What else? Can we call boundaries rules? We can. We can. If you want to call them rules, you sure can. That's up to you. Totally up to you. I mean, because essentially rules and boundaries function the same. It's just, I guess, all in what the context is. But if you want to use the word boundaries and rules interchangeably, you can. If people have a negative view of the word rules, which I don't really get, I mean, I understand if you're like a kid, maybe rules don't sound fun to you. But as you get older and more mature, and definitely as you're an adult, you should have an appreciation for rules because rules are designed to do something. Can they be excessive? Maybe at your job or somewhere like that. Yes, and we are not taking away from the silly rules that may be made at your job that somebody just made because they was on a power trip and they serve no purpose for nobody being served by the place or the people that are operating. But yes, there is that, but I'm just talking about the concept of rules. The concept of rules, unless you're a kid, you might hear the word rules and be like, rules, they're not fun, they stink. But definitely as an adult, rules should be something that you embrace, okay? Because rules are also designed to do something for us. Yeah, I know, shoot. I know I used to work at them jobs where they used to be so concerned about the color pants you had on, the length of the pants you had on, the color of your hair. It's just like, what does it matter? What does that really matter? I don't care. One of my interns was like, do you care if I dye my hair purple? I said, no, I don't care. I am not the boss of your hair. You can dye it whatever color you want to dye it. And if a client doesn't want to see you because of your hair color, well, then we can show them to somebody else that may have a hair color that they're okay with, okay? So no, I'm not the boss of your hair. I'm not the boss of your body. None of that. So if you want to color your hair purple, pink, red, green, whatever, that is your right to do. Sharon said, set boundaries of how much access you give others when it comes to your personal space. It's okay to leave room for yourself. Yes, I like that. That's a great answer. It was the rule for hair I didn't understand. Right, like that hair thing. Like, who is it hurting for you to do something to your own hair? Like, no, like it's like, now I understand if it's like the appearance is the job, okay? Maybe like, I don't know. I'm trying to even think of a job. Maybe if you work for a modeling agency and y'all do a particular type of photography that requires you to look uniform or something. Okay, I get it. I understand. But if you're working at a hospital, a bank, a therapy practice, where else? Shoot. School. What does it matter what color your hair is? I just don't understand. Kids in first grade be having colorful hair nowadays. Yeah. And I like that, schools are allowing them to express themselves. Yes, no, they shouldn't. Anything that's violent, like if they come in with violent hate speech on their shirt, that's different. That is harmful. But hair color is not harming nobody, okay? All right, so let's get back to it. So, boundaries are designed to protect, okay? And they're not only designed to protect you, but the boundaries you set for others are designed to protect them as well. I'll say it again. The boundaries that you set for yourself are not only designed to protect you, but they are designed to protect others as well, okay? Let me tell you why. Because boundaries again, they're a protective measure. They're designed to keep us safe. Well, if you let someone function in your life outside of your boundaries, it can cause you to act out of character, okay? It could cause you to be resentful, bitter, and you may not be a resentful, bitter person. But because you've allowed somebody to be all in your space and not respect the limits that you have to have in order to keep yourself calm, safe, happy, and grounded, then you start noticing things. Have you ever heard a person say, that wasn't even me? Like when I did that, that wasn't even me. And not all the time. I'm not going to say all the time. Some folks, they need to really come see one of us because they're going to always use that for their reasoning for doing something harmful is, oh, that's not even me. Okay. All right. But I'm talking about if somebody breaks your boundary. Imagine a time where someone's broke your boundary and your reaction to that. So one of my boundaries is veiled humor. I don't like it. Anything that's supposed to, I was just joking. It was just a joke. If it's mean and hateful, if it is a dig at me in any way, like a dig at my character, a dig at my appearance, a dig at a choice that I've made that only affects me, then, and you make a joke about it, or joke, quote unquote joke, that's called veiled humor. I don't like it. I do not like it. It makes me feel like you're joking, not joking. Okay? You're saying what you want to say that you mean, but you say it in a joking manner so you don't have to bear the responsibility of your statement. Oh, I was just joking. Oh, I was just a joke. Can you take a joke? And when somebody says that, that's what gaslighting is, for those of you that don't know. Gaslight, that's a good example. That's one example. There's other examples, but you can't take a joke. Oh, you're so sensitive. Oh, that's gaslighting, and it's very abusive, toxic behavior. So if you have somebody in your life that you have asked not to do something and they do it anyway, and then they try to make you feel bad about the fact that you don't like what they did, give us a call or run away, whichever. Or give us a call and run away, whichever is the most comfortable for you. Give us a call. That may be easier to start with so you can get direction on, or run away from that person. Or give us a call as you're running away, either way. All right. But people that do that, that's an example of somebody not respecting your boundaries. If you're like, hey, I don't like veiled humor, and then this person trying to make a joke about you, that's like a undercut or a jab, and then they try to present it as no. They're not a safe person. Okay, they're not safe, and it's not your fault they're not safe. Okay, you didn't do anything to make them not be safe. Whatever has happened in their life before they got to you is the reason. Okay, I can guarantee it. All right, so don't feel bad about, and again, just because my boundary isn't the same as your boundary, that doesn't make my boundary or your boundary less significant or less valid just because I don't share the same boundary that you have. My only job is to respect your boundaries regardless of what they are. Okay, I just need to respect them. All right, and that is to keep me safe and you safe, because if I don't respect your boundaries, it could cause you to act out of character, and then who knows what might happen. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just gonna if you tell me no, it's no. Okay, if you say go away, it's go away. If you say I don't feel comfortable with that, it's I don't feel comfortable with that. And learning to say okay, which has been hard for a lot of people. Let me see what the comments are. Toya says, I concur. Sharon says, one of my biggest boundaries is having my no ready and on standby after I have given so many yeses. Yup. And so a boundary, that's a good, I'm glad you said that, because people may be like, well, when do I know to say no? Whenever you choose. I have another shirt that says you don't owe nobody a spot in your space. So if you want to say no every time somebody asks you for something, you can, but deal with the consequences of that. Because if you say no every single time someone, like if it's somebody that deserves your, like if it's a reciprocal party and you're telling the reciprocal party no, then maybe it might come a time where you might need their support and they say no to you, which would be well within their right to say. But definitely if your life is full of people that don't reciprocate and they don't, or to even to the level that you feel they should reciprocate, I'm gonna say that. Even if it's not, because somebody else's best may not be the best for you, okay? They may be saying they're doing their best, but just because they're doing their best, that doesn't mean that it has to be okay with you. So you can say no as much as you please, okay? As much as you feel comfortable to say no. Same thing goes with yes. You can say yes as many times as you feel comfortable to say yes, okay? It all depends on what you feel. The whole thing is, what do I feel safe saying or doing? If I don't feel safe, and I'm not just talking about physical safety, I'm talking about physical safety, I'm talking about financial safety, I'm talking about spiritual safety, I'm talking about mental safety, I'm talking about emotional safety, I'm talking about occupational safety, educational safety, all of that, okay? All of that. If one of your areas of existence does not feel safe doing or saying something, that's where you say no. That's where you say no. All right. Magnolia said, for me, I have learned to recluse myself. I have a really hard time sometimes to communicate what I really want, really, and what I want. Yeah, and a lot of people do. And there's a reasoning for that. There's a reasoning for that. And that is where a good therapist comes in to help you unpack where the struggle to communicate your emotions are, or to communicate your requirements, or communicate your boundaries. That is a struggle. And sometimes that goes back to deeply ingrained beliefs that maybe in our family or our community around us shunned. Again, going back to my own community as African American, you tell an older grandma about boundaries, honey, she gonna be like, you don't boundary no bills in this house. You don't boundary no food on the table, so you don't get to boundary nothing. See? And that's like, it was like deeply ingrained that you don't have a right. And that even goes back to colonization and rights being taken, voices being taken from Black and brown people as a community when we were, well, I won't say were, the early enslavement, what early enslavement looked like, okay? So it was a little bit more, not much more staunch, but it was definitely a little more staunch. And Black and brown people were bought and sold and treated as objects. And so boundaries, no, you're an object. You don't have a right. We were dehumanized. And that's what has carried on and has been passed down, the idea of dehumanizing someone, telling them they don't have a right to feel, think, say what allows them to advocate for themselves and keep themselves safe, okay? So, show boundaries your ass. Yeah, exactly. I'm a boundaries on your ass. Yeah, exactly. Like super toxic. You know what I'm saying? Like even like now there are like if a kid so there are some extreme instances where, you know, when I worked in foster care, where a door had to be removed from a kid's room because for safety reasons. Okay. And that's the reason. If it's safety, if a boundary you're trying to keep will not keep you safe, then that's not a boundary anymore. Okay. That becomes a barrier if it's not designed to keep you safe. So, but like for a kid who's not doing anything that, you know, it's okay for them to have their door closed or whatever, it doesn't interfere with any safety. I tell parents they need to knock. You need to knock on their door. Knock on the door, because they have a right to their space, their boundary. Okay. They need to learn that it's okay. And it teaches them to respect other people's boundaries. You don't want your kids growing up feeling like they can just open people's doors and stuff without asking. Like, that doesn't teach them good boundaries. It does not teach them to respect people's space. Or it could teach them that everybody else's space deserves to be respected except theirs. And then they have boundary issues. See there? See? Not an okay thing. Not okay. Wait a minute. What? So, let's see. Hold on, I'm reading y'all's comments. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Shell, no, you should have boundaries. I hope Punky Brewster wasn't saying boundaries your ass to you. I thought it was a typo. But boundaries your ass is, you know, ideal. That is hell. Like, you don't get to have no boundaries. One of my clients told me that their older family member, when they brought up the concept of boundaries, was like, laughed at them, like, we aren't allowed to have boundaries. And that's not okay. You know, that's not okay, because then it perpetuates a problem. And then people continue to have just different levels of intrapersonal difficulties with interpersonal actions and intrapersonal interactions. So interactions with themselves and interactions with others, and may allow people to do things to them that isn't safe because they were taught that boundaries were something that you should shame. Okay. So again, it's designed to keep you safe and designed to keep them safe as well. All right. So you want to make sure. So what areas do you think you should have boundaries? What areas of your life in particular do you think you should have boundaries of? And put it in the comments. Let's see what y'all say. What areas of your life should you have boundaries in? And it may be different for everybody. Oh, it was a typo. Okay. Okay. While y'all are putting that. Work, definitely. Yup. That's a big one. I'm gonna find in her room if I don't make her think I'm busting in at any moment. What? Oh no. You relate, okay? Y'all are coming with it. Y'all making me think y'all in therapy or something. Work, relationships, family, friends. Y'all keep coming with it. I'm proud of y'all. Personal space. Come on now. Not y'all preaching. Not y'all preaching in the comments. But these are all good. I couldn't have said none of these better myself. Work. You need boundaries there, definitely for yourself and for your job. Okay, because workingaholic, overworking is a thing, and there is a reason for that. It can actually be a trauma response. That's another live, but overworking can be a trauma response. Candace said, every area of my life has some sort of boundary, including talking smack about my sushi pup. Yep. Same thing with Mr. Carter, and he bad as hell. But he my little bad as hell dog. Okay? So I can't let nobody mistreat him. Nobody can mistreat him. So I understand. But Sushi is so sweet. Why would anybody besides a psycho talk about Sushi? My kid, yes. You do have to have boundaries with your children. Parents, don't feel like you gotta, go all do something that and it may be like a financial safety thing. More often than not with parents, it could be that. They feel like something went wrong, so they try to, let down the financial boundaries with the kids. No, because that doesn't teach them. When you let your boundaries, it teaches them they should probably let their boundaries down or allow somebody to pummel their financial boundary. So you have to think about how your lack of boundaries could not keep someone else safe and not keep you safe. Everyone you deal with needs boundaries. Yes, time is a good one. Religious boundaries, yes. That is a sweet baby dog. Folks you have to parent with, yes. That's a big one. Co-parents that may not get along. There has to be a boundary. There are some clear boundaries. And that may come in the form of a divorce decree. Who knows? Or it could just come in the form of provision for the child. It could come, or contact with you or lack thereof. Yes, that's a good one. Working virtually. Expand on that one. Personal being, yes. I'm about to start that journey. Kind of nervous. Yeah, and it can be. Let me tell you, I'm not even going to sit here and act like putting up boundaries is easy. It's not. And it does not feel comfortable at first. It's just, and it's a choice you have to make like this. Do I want to deal with the short-term discomfort for the long-term peace of mind and comfort? Or do I want to deal with the short-term comfort that's the long-term discomfort? So if you choose to do boundaries, short-term discomfort for long-term comfort, peace of mind. If you choose not to do boundaries, short-term comfort. This is comfort to not have boundaries short-term. Long-term discomfort. So that's your choice to make. That's really your choice to make. That is really up to you. If you want short-term discomfort for a long-term comfort, or do you want short-term comfort for a long-term discomfort? It's really up to you. And then Lakira said, you have to know when to shut the work off because 5 is 5 no matter what. Exactly. We need to pass out YBC business cards when we set boundaries. Yeah. Or purchase a YBC shirt that communicates boundaries. Like this one is, my mental health is a non-negotiable. All right. I also have one that says, your judgment of me is a you thing. Shrugs. I also have one that says, you don't owe nobody a spot in your space. I don't know if that one shrugs. I think that's shrugs. But yeah, to start the conversation with people about building boundaries. A lot of time boundary issues come from codependency. It can. You're exactly right. And codependency can be a learned behavior that gets passed down. Maybe you saw your parents do it, and your parents saw your grandparents do it, and your grandparents saw your great-grandparents do it, and they passed it down, or an environment has historically been built on codependency. And sometimes if you have codependency issue, someone else's boundaries could really bother you. If you notice yourself, your feathers being ruffled about somebody else's boundaries and you not liking their boundaries, you might want to check yourself. You may be dealing with some codependency. Okay? That's a good one, though. Yep. Working outside of your 8 to 5. Just because we're virtual doesn't mean I should log on outside of normal. Yep, you're right. Exactly. Self boundaries. I like that. Teaching yourself that it starts with you. Exactly. You have to remind yourself that you have to take care of you. Exactly. And we've been shamed for that. I feel attacked. We have been shamed for that. We have been shamed for taking care of ourselves. Somebody said on the live a few weeks ago, when they said they needed space and we were having a similar discussion, or when we got to the boundary part of the discussion, someone said they were told that they were using them wanting space as a weapon. What? How? Who is that harming for you to take your space? Now, if you're stonewalling somebody who cares about you, or giving the silent treatment to someone who cares about you, or not communicating where someone in your life has fallen short, then okay, that can be weaponized if you're not doing your part. But if you have verbally and clearly, or in writing, whichever, but if you have clearly communicated what your boundary is, and the person tries to break it, that's a different situation. But if you haven't communicated your boundary and expect somebody to abide by it, that's not fair. Now, of course, for like big stuff, like physical stuff, like if somebody, is trying to physically infringe on you, like you shouldn't have to necessarily lay that out for somebody. Because if you don't invite somebody to touch your body, they should not be touching your body. We learn to keep our hands to ourselves. But some people didn't learn to keep their hands to themselves. So that may be something to consider. But in general, keeping your hands to yourself is a big deal. So if you have somebody not keeping their hands to themselves and breaking your boundary, then, you shouldn't have to spell that out for anyone. But if it's like a communication boundary, a time boundary, an ideal boundary, like moral boundary or an ideal boundary, that maybe that where that can stand to be different. It's not like a legal boundary that everybody should have to follow, but it's more like a personal boundary that maybe not everyone has. You do have to clearly communicate that. Because the fact that everybody has different levels of boundary and different types of personal boundaries, you have to make sure you communicate your wants, needs, and desires. And that's a boundary for you. Again, that keeps you and them safe. All right. I'm guilty of not taking advantage of self-care, even with work, not taking lunches, breaks, or employee development classes. Yeah, definitely take breaks. I was in a training, a continuing education training on how to assist clients with managing their anxiety. And they said something so unpopular. It felt so uncomfortable for me to hear it. But the statement was for your anxious clients, encourage them to take breaks even if they don't feel like they deserve them. Ain't that foreign? Don't that feel foreign? But it's true. Take breaks even when you don't feel like you deserve them. In fact, take a break when you have told yourself you don't deserve one. That's the exact time to take one. Take a break. Take a break. Do you think that it's harder for neurodivergent people to honor boundaries of time or personal space? It just depends. It can if they don't have any prior, like, okay, so if let's talk about autism. That's just the most concrete example I could give with that. But like, so people on the autism spectrum, they may have some difficulty understanding social cues. They may have some difficulty understanding, they may have some difficulty understanding personal space, but that doesn't mean that they are doing it on purpose. They, they may unintentionally be breaking someone's boundary. However, it's the responsibility first, the parents in the school to teach, and I'm just saying child, because there are adults with autism, but we would hope that if they were taught correctly and taught the right skills consistently, that by the time they get to adulthood, an adult on the spectrum does really know boundaries. Have y'all seen that show, Dating on the Spectrum on Netflix? They had some impeccable boundaries, man. Those individuals on the spectrum because they had been taught, and they were even obeying, but they were respecting higher level boundaries. They would ask permission to do even the smallest things that maybe neurotypical people don't feel they should have to ask for permission with, but they would ask for permission for everything. It was the most beautiful thing. It had warmed my heart. But y'all need to watch that. It's called Dating on the Spectrum, and I think it's on Netflix. I think that's where I saw it. But if you do get older, and you are on the spectrum, it's just something that you'll need to learn. A skill you may need to learn and develop. But as long as you're open to it, that's good. It becomes a problem when a person isn't open to change. Okay? That's when a person becomes toxic and a problem, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. It's a good show. It is. It's a real cute show. I love it. It was like different individuals on the spectrum trying to get into dating. And another good show to watch is Atypical. That's a good one on Netflix if you want to look at how teaching of boundaries to neurodivergent individuals may look. Yeah, so Atypical on Netflix, and it's funny too. But they do a real good job of depicting. Then the guy on there, he was dealing more with like Asperger's, that part of the spectrum, but still, he had a lot of sensitivities too. But he was very high functioning, and so were the people. So were the individuals on Dating on the Spectrum. Yeah, I mean, anytime I watch them shows, I'm like, I'm on the spectrum. At this point, if I'm on the spectrum, I have learned so many behaviors that you can't tell it for the most part. I just come off as a goofy human being, which I'm okay with. But shoot, I thought I was on the spectrum too. I was like, me too. When I read women, it's harder to being on the spectrum. It's harder to detect in women than it is in men. Yeah, it's a good show. Both of those are real good shows. I like those kind of, psychological shows. But those are two really good ones to watch. But again, in relationships, y'all named some really good areas. So y'all already took over that. Y'all said work. Y'all said friends, family. Set boundaries for yourself. That boundaries need to start with you. Time, finances, okay, giving. Let me tell you something about giving and helping. All helping and giving is not healthy, okay? Again, if you're giving or helping to a level that is harmful to you or someone else, it's not healthy. So if you're doing something in your initial discovery of boundaries, the first thing you need to assess before you make a decision, is this going to hurt me in some way? Or is it going to hurt this other person in some way? If it is going to hurt them, or if it's going to hurt me, then I don't need to do it. I don't need that. That's where I need to say no. That's where I need to set my boundary, because their safety in some area doesn't have to just be physical. Okay. We always think physical safety is the only safety that needs to be, respected. No. Mental, emotional, financial, educational, all of them, any part of your existence. If it's going to threaten any part of your existence or threaten any part of someone else's existence, that's where a no or a stop needs to happen. Okay, that's the best place for you to start. Now, for more details on your individual boundary setting, of course, you would need to get with a therapist. Told y'all that I was going to put, because that it could be a foreign concept to you. Which is pretty common for boundaries to be a foreign concept to people. So don't feel like you're alone in that if you're not even sure where to start. Okay? Don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. I'm here to tell you. I talk to people every day, all day. And I'm telling you, there is a community of people that have difficulty setting boundaries. And so it may be baby steps. It may start with you going to the therapist, sharing with the therapist things that are happening in your life that cause you to feel unsafe, and the therapist helping you develop a treatment plan that you're comfortable with at the speed you're comfortable implementing it, what kind of baby steps you can take towards boundaries. Because once you set a boundary, the consistency part can be hard, because you got the deeply ingrained core beliefs that's telling you you're doing something wrong, you're a bad person, oh my gosh, how could you? You're so selfish, like all the negative self-talk that comes around setting boundaries, because society and even in communities, that has been the rhetoric that has been amplified is, oh, if you say no, that makes you selfish, you only care about yourself, or you a bad person, or you don't care about nobody. Like, and you may even lose some friends, okay? Or people who you thought were friends. Your true friends you won't lose. People that really are healthy, you're not going to lose them. But some unhealthy people who you have attachments to may fall off, so you may need help through that process, okay? Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to shoot straight and keep it real. Love on the spectrum. That I was saying it wrong. I was calling it dating on. It's Love on the Spectrum. That's the name of the show. That show, yeah, you right. Thanks, Tiffany. It's Love on the Spectrum, not Dating on the Spectrum. I had it all messed up. All right. So let's see. One of my clients asked me a real good question. What is the difference between a boundary and an ultimatum? The simplest way I can say that is a boundary is a protective measure, and it doesn't force anyone into a decision. An ultimatum, which there are good and bad ultimatums, but an ultimatum forces someone into a decision. Okay? A boundary forces safety. An ultimatum forces a decision. Okay? So that's the difference. But some other boundaries y'all might want to look at is verbal boundaries, or boundaries with your information. Being oversharing. You might want to put a boundary on that for your safety, because you can't trust everybody with your information. Okay? I would even say take your time sharing with your therapist. Make sure you feel safe with them. Okay? Don't feel like you got to go into your first session and bare your whole soul. You don't got to do that. You start where you feel comfortable. Okay? You start where you feel comfortable. It's our job to meet you where you're at. Now, if it's again, safety is when we got to kind of, force some things. But if it's not a safety issue, and I'm talking about physical safety, okay, I'm talking about physical safety with. If you're in physical harm or danger of someone else's, then of course we got to be a little bit more aggressive about that. But if it's, any other type of safety that's not going to like lead to your life ending or someone else's life ending or a major injury, then we can meet you where you're at there with that. Okay, Mr. Carter, don't start now. Y'all know he trying. He is in his boundary, that crate, and he don't like boundaries. Mr. Carter also has empty eyes because he is probably a psycho. So I have to keep my foot on his neck because Mr. Carter, he tries to move about the world like it's his, and it's not. He's not like Sushi. He's not at all like Sushi. Okay. Him not sweet. Him bad. With his empty eyes. Like, why are your eyes empty, sir? It's like you don't have a soul in there. What's going on? Yeah, oversharing. You want to be careful with that. Because everybody should not be trusted with your information. Okay, you need to know if a person is safe. They need to earn that. And there are different techniques that I talk about in therapy sessions and or counseling sessions to help people establish boundaries for their personal situation. So again, I can tell you that you need to develop boundaries here, but the how, you're going to have to text the word new. All right. Or intern if you're looking for therapy sessions that are free. Okay. And the interns are under my direct supervision, and I keep a very close eye on them. So if you are having trouble with affording therapy, text the word intern. If you are okay to afford it and you want an advanced therapist, someone that's already licensed, you can text the word new. Okay. All right. Cool. So we talked about what boundaries are, what areas you want to implement them in, and simple ways to start thinking about where boundaries need to be put. Again, the very simplest way is if you feel unsafe or threatened in some way, okay? You may need it, and it may be a boundary for you or it may be a boundary for someone else. All right. Y'all did good. Yes, the interns are great. I love them. Well, and that could be a thing too. You might, so if you don't share enough, that's a good point, Chloe. If you don't share enough, ask yourself, is that threatening your safety in some way? Is it threatening your mental or emotional safety in some way for you not to share enough with safe people? So if you're in therapy, let me use that example. If you're in therapy and you're not sharing enough, is it causing you some mental or emotional harm to not share enough? Okay, so just ask yourself that question, and that's where you start. Okay, and if it's a yes, like yes, it's threatening my safety, that's where you start with your therapist. You might not bear everything out to them, but you might say, hey, I'm not sharing everything with you, and I know it's not good for me because maybe I'm not getting what I need. And so then you and your therapist can figure out a way that's comfortable for you to start sharing those things that maybe you should share that could get you more of the healing that you're looking for if you're in therapy, or, that's just, an example. But that was good. Thank you for sharing that. Cool. Y'all did so good. Do y'all have any questions? Any questions or comments? While I'm letting y'all give me your questions or comments, if you have any, we have now 4 groups. Okay. We got the mommy support group, which is pretty much full. Sorry. It's pretty full. But we have the SAD season group, and people are like, why is it called SAD? It's literally the acronym for seasonal affective disorder. So if you're dealing with any symptoms of depression, whether they come around all season or seasonally, that's a group that meets weekly. Then in February, we'll be starting a grief support group, okay? And neurodivergent support group for people dealing with ADHD, autism, OCD, bipolar disorder, some sort of learning disability. And when we say neurodivergent, that just means like your brain may function a little different. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, but your brain may function different than what we would call a neurotypical person. Okay. And trauma also can cause your brain to function different. So those are different areas, but that does not mean, people get all weird about learning disabilities, and I don't know why, but just because you're dealing with like ADHD or autism or bipolar disorder, that doesn't mean that you have a learning disability. And just because you're dealing with a learning disability doesn't make you unintelligent, okay? So I just want to clear that up, all right? It doesn't make you unintelligent. You could be super highly intelligent and have some struggling with how you see a word. You may see a word backward, okay? Or you may mix letters up, but that doesn't mean you're unintelligent. That just means that for whatever reason, the way that your brain is wired, when you look at a word, you see it backward. That's all it means. But it doesn't mean that you're not smart, okay? I know a lot of people with dyslexia, dyscalculia, and there's the other one. This is that graduated college just fine. They have a job, fully functional people. It's just that area, okay? Cool. All right. Can we get a YBC calendar? Ooh, I should do a calendar. I'll look into it. I do have a therapy notebook because a lot of my clients take notes. So there's a Progress Over Perfection notebook in the YBC brand shop that you can purchase if you need a notebook. But I'll look into the calendar. Great topic and great takeaway from this conversation. Oh, thank you. I need that one, neurodivergent and SAD. Yeah. So you can, if you want to come to the neurodivergent group, text the word brain to this number. Where I have new, just text the word brain. And if you want to join the seasonal affective disorder group, just text the word SAD to this number. So it's the same number, it's just different words that you'll text. This math makes me cry. A lot of people have this math makes me cry. See, it's super common. I mean, to tell us all the groups and stuff in one place. We have a newsletter. That's what the monthly newsletter is for. So if you haven't signed up to the newsletter, you want to go to yellowbirdcounseling.com and sign up for that newsletter. Okay. Actually, guess what? I'm going to even put it in the comments real quick. Let me put the link in the comments for you. So you can sign up for the newsletter if you're not already on it. But that's where all of our groups, all of our live topics, all of our giveaways, all of that is in our monthly newsletter. So hold on. Let me share it with you. Okay. All right. Cool. I just put that link in the comments. And I'm going to put it over here for y'all too, Instagram. Here. That's the link. If you want to join the newsletter, so you'll know when we have all our lives, when we have all of our giveaways, when we have our groups at other events, when we have discount on our merchandise, all that. When we accept new insurance, it's all monthly. We send that out. You're most welcome. You are most welcome. I'm happy to provide it. All right. Well, y'all have been great this evening. Thank you so much for your participation, and thank y'all so much for being engaged. Again, if you have not shared, please share this live because somebody on your timeline needs it, whether it's a friend, a family member, a coworker, or acquaintance. They can really benefit from it. And if you're a part of any groups, if you could share this live in your groups, so that way we can get the word out to more people and help more people be on the incline for mental health and not the decline. All right. But I will see y'all back here at 8-ish p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 9-ish p.m. Eastern Time, which is 6-ish p.m. Pacific Time to discuss more topics next week. Y'all have a good evening and be safe.